All right, well, we've learned some things, so we're going to try again. And this should be interesting to see if we can get this into Roblox. Not this part, but the other part. So the other part from QGIS. So this is the area that we're working in, part of the area anyway. But I'm going to make that hidden. There's and meter is part of that, and you can see that the and meter area is part of that whole extent. And if we take the and meter area and bring it up in Z, it does map right onto there. So we have in Blender the ability to do different sections and then to control them. So we can do that, and this can have a displacement modifier as well. So if it's not a plane, is it? So if I make a plane like this, let me just go ahead and do that for a second. So we're going to add mesh plane, and we'll call this one and meter plane, and we're going to call this one project area plane, or HAF project extent plane. And then there's the and meter plane. We make the and meter plane match the match this one here. We see that it has dimensions, so we copy that dimension, go to our plane, and paste that dimension in, and then go to our plane. Go to the and meter area, grab the y-axis, copy with Control C. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. Copy it with Control C. Go into the and meter plane and paste it. Now we have a plane that is pretty much the same size. If we go G and Z, we can bring it up. So GZ, bring up that. Where did it go? Plane disappeared way up there now. Look at that. All right, bring it back down and zoom in with the period key. Bring it back down and right on top of that. Go to edit mode, subdivide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times if we can get away with it. Go back into object mode. If you look at it, it is subdivided. And now that we have that subdivided, we can take the and meter plane, add a modifier, which is a displacement. Make a, see if there's anything in there. No, make a new one called, oh, there is an HAF and meter texture, and that should start making mountains out of the place. It doesn't have any texture on it. That's coming through the other one, so as you can see. So we have that texture in there. We want to assign that texture to it, so we're going to go to a new material, base color, click on that dot, go to image texture, and open up the and meter, which would be under here, and meter, area 1 and meter, PING. And now we have that. And it doesn't look very pronounced, and that is because you need to go to the scale of Z, and then you can get that. And then you want to shade smooth a couple times. So what we have now is a piece of landscape, which can map right onto that, so you can zoom in on that and see where the villages are in relation to the mountains in there as part of the wider DEM map, which we saw from here. And this one is another plane. It is the HAF plane where we put mountains in. So I've obviously made those mountains way too big. So let's bring them down. So you're going to be doing all these adjustments to see the landscape if you want to get it, to be more visible. And you can always bring planes up like this. And you can just keep doing this. There's another part of the landscape that I want to do, which is what I want to bring into Roblox, which is this mark here. And this is where the Ackridge Nursery and the Old Jewish Cemetery are. So I'm going to bring that in by going to QGIS. Let me save this, save as, and then call this HAF projects extent. So I'll work on this map. All right, so I'm going to be able to add to this map over here by going to QGIS and finding that area of Ackridge, which is there. And it's really just the cemetery that I want to get. And I'm not going to use Blender GIS's import function as I was doing before, because that was what was causing a lot of complications, having a DEM that caused the landscape to be really wavy. So I want to have a flat landscape that I use the displacement map to bring the DEM information in. So I'll use this. Maybe if I can, I guess that's as good as I can get. I'll take this and I certainly don't need to have the OpenStreetMap tracks. Google Hybrid is what I have. I don't want that. I want to try S3 Satellite. No, it doesn't have anything at that level. So let me bring in a different underlying map. I'll use Quick Map Services and I'll go to Google Satellite and hopefully, I don't know why it's not come in. Where's my Google Satellite? I just asked for it. I have to turn it on. Google Hybrid, S3 Satellite, S3 Terrain. Where's Google Satellite? STRM images. Oh, there it is. It was just hidden. So this is the Google Satellite, and the Google Satellite will let me come on in that big, whereas S3 would not. All right. So having that area, I will export it. And you'll see in a minute how this works. Import, export map to image. I'll use the map canvas extent, and I will hit save. And then I'm going to call this, use a ping format, and I'm going to call this Ackridge QGIS export. Because I have so many of these now. All right, so I got that, and then I have the DEM that I want. And to get the DEM, I could just use that. If you weren't watching any of my earlier blunder-throughs, I should show you how I did that. So let me remove that layer. Goodbye. The fastest way to get a DEM in is to go to a plugin that is called SRTM Downloader. And if you're in all, not installed, but if you're in all, and you search for STRM in all, Shuttle Radar Topography Mission. Then you get this downloader, and you have to be able to get a free account with NASA to download the Shuttle Radar Topography Mission tiles. So I have that plugin, and so when I go to plugins, it shows up here, and I say downloader, set the canvas extent to what this was to match our image, and load images to QGIS, say download, and boom. It may ask you for your credentials for NASA. Now, as you can see, oh, I shouldn't have done that, because now I'm not going to find it. You see there it is there, but now I'm going to have to redo. All right, let me redo my, my other map. So let me go back to this. I just wanted you to see how it looks when it comes in, because it's obscured here and it doesn't look like anything. But when you zoom out, you can see that that shuttle map is right there covering all of that. That's what I wanted you to see. So one way to zoom back in really quickly is to go to Cemetery Feature and say Zoomed Layer. And also change your scale. So if you go to 1 to 1000 and then zoom in on the feature, there, it comes up. We want 1 to 1000. That's what we're going to use, and then we can export that again because we messed up. I messed up. Export to image and use that map canvas extent, save it, and I'm going to use Actrich QGIS export and overwrite it. Now I'm going to go to the band, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go export, and I'm going to say same map canvas extent, save as, and then call this Actrich QGIS export again, but I'll give the name DEM so I know at a glance what it is. And the reason I'm using that as opposed to a TIFF is because it uses so much less memory. So when I say export there, I've now got that little portion in there. And when I go to Blender and I go up to Blender GIS, and because that ping is geotagged, when I go to georeferenced raster and I have Actrich QGIS ping, and I import that georaster, it imports right where it's supposed to be, right on that giant dot, as you can see. And that's the little piece that I want. And in order to get my proper elevation data going, we've learned that you have to make a plane. So let me go to the top view and say add mesh plane, and it'll go right in the middle of there, and I'll call this the Actrich nursery plane. And that plane has to get the same dimensions as the file that we just brought in, which is the, where'd it go? That's and meter. We don't need and meter. We don't need the extents there. So we have that. Ooh, a little bit of distortion from projection. Okay. The Actrich nursery plane, where is the one we just brought in? So that little guy isn't, there we go. I select it. So it's Actrich export. So that has dimensions of 300 by 221. So when we get to this one, it's 300 by 221. And when we bring that plane up, it should show up. Actrich nursery plane, where are you? Zoom in. Oh, it ended up way over there. That's weird. Again, probably to do with projections. So I need to move this up to there where it belongs, and then zoom in, and then match it up. All right. And I need to bring it down as well. So GZ, bring it all the way down. And then see what it looks like matched up. It's not still quite at the, there we go. Okay. So we got that plane there. It can be a little bit lower. Okay. And as we did before, we're going to go to the edit mode, and we're going to subdivide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll do 8 subdivisions. All right. And I will also come into this that has now been subdivided, as you can tell. I'm going to add a new material to it, and that material is going to be from an image that we saved, and that image is the Actrich QGIS export. And then bang, we have that image on top, and we can turn off the other Actrich export. All right, so now we're just dealing with this plane, and having this plane, which has its divisions in it, we can go to the displacement modifier, and we can make a new texture and call it the Actrich. What? Screen? So we're at the Ackridge Nursery Plain, and we're going to call this Ackridge Nursery DEM. And then, having created that, when we go to texture down here, we're about to create that by opening the Ackridge QGIS export DEM that we made, that we got from QGIS, and that creates a displacement which is actually, when we bring it up to 100, it actually has displaced it. So I'm going to do GZ and lift this up again, but it doesn't look pronounced because it's just not a very mountainous part of the landscape. But to get it up there, you got to go to Z here, and you got to move Z, and then you have to keep moving this up. And there is some dimension, as you can see here, and it keeps, the more dimension I make it, the more it keeps bringing this down. But you can see that the resolution of the actual DEM is such that while there is dimension, you don't want to use it because it looks like, you know, you're falling down steps on the landscape here. It's just too low resolution to even be worth it. So really, it's probably best, if you're going to use it at all, to keep it really light, so there's just a little bit, but even that just sort of bothers me. And yes, you can smooth, you should shade smooth, that helps a little bit. And maybe that's all you really want, is just a little bit of topography, but not too much. And I've shade smoothed it. So that's what we're going to work with then. But as I was saying, you know, if I get rid of everything else so you don't see anything but this, you can tell that when I really exaggerate it, you do get what the topography, you can get the slope of the topography. And it is clear that if there was a flood, it would be coming this way and the water would be flowing down to that part of the property. But there's no cliff here. I mean, that's ridiculous. So these 30-meter topographies are not really enough. You'd have to do LiDAR or something to get better data on that. So yeah, why not keep it at about whatever you're comfortable with.
Daddy, I want to watch Mario.